All right, so we are sitting in the remnants of what was an incredible season one of Dispatch that we have been sitting in it, hoping, waiting, reminiscing, wanting more info, more news as to what's happening with season 2, as to where this thing is going. So many of us feel like this is one of the greatest games we've played in quite a while, one of the greatest stories we've experienced, and it seems like we finally have some news on season 2 and whether it will be a thing and maybe what's in store for Dispatch moving forward. So let's dive into it. So, of course, ADOC is already developing another game for Critical Role, the studio that came and kind of helped save them in making Dispatch when they had a big financial backer back out of the game close to the last minute, and Critical Role stepped in, helped them out, and, of course, already made a deal to make a game for their own universe, that they do this kind of Dungeons and Dragons tale kind of a thing. And so they'll be making a game for that. And so we know that that's in development for sure. We know that they did some work for The Wolf Among Us Season 2. But when will we see a Dispatch Season 2? And so I have two quotes here. One from one of the heads of ADOC Studios, Nick Herman, on his response to all of the buzz around Season 2. Another from a conversation that Moist Critical and Aaron Paul had. And so this is the quote from Nick Herman, who is one of the heads at ADOC Studios. He said, "We're going to have to at least think about a season 2. That was a question mark 3 weeks ago, so that's great. It's a very cool problem to have," end quote. And then Aaron Paul, who of course played Robert, was hanging out with Moist Critical, doing a stream where they were talking about Dispatch. Moist Critical, of course, played Sonar in the game, and Aaron said this to Moist Critical: "I hope that you and I get to do multiple seasons of this game. I hope we get to do more," end quote. And so what's cool about this is there's been all kinds of comments like this. In fact, there's been even more than just these two, but this is a great sample sizing of both the main actors who they would need to bring back, like Aaron, who some may wonder if he would have an interest in doing more, and the heads of the studio both saying, we want to do season 2. Season 2 is something we want to do. It's something we're seeing. It's something we're going to dive into. In a different interview, I saw that Nick also commented that they have ideas for season 2, that they left some things on the cutting floor. Of course, in developing it, they're like, let's just make this game as great as possible, but they knew where they would want to take this story moving forward if they had the opportunity to do a season 2. And now it's really obvious that they do. The game has already sold more than 2 million units. For the 1 million units, they thought it would take them months before they were able to achieve that goal, and they would have been thrilled if they were able to achieve it and hit it. And so in a matter of a very short time span, they've surpassed 2 million. This game is doing way better than they expected. It's a huge hit. It's a hit with fans, where there's a huge fan base and a huge group of people who absolutely love this game, love this universe, want to see more from these characters, and it's been loved by critics. This thing has been getting 9s out of 10s left, right, and center, 10 out of 10s that I've seen people constantly reviewing this game, overwhelmingly positive, that this has been an absolute knockout of the park for this studio. And so now, of course, we know that a season 2 is in works. They're talking about it. They're starting out. There will be a season 2. That if you've got Aaron Paul publicly saying, I want to do more seasons, not only do I want to do a season 2, I want to do multiple seasons. He's all in. That's incredible. That's very telling. And then to have the studio head saying, oh yeah, we're thinking about season 2. We have to. This thing was such a big hit. Of course, we're talking about it, and we didn't know if we would be. And so it's an awesome problem to have. And so when will we see this? That's the question. I know for some people, they're like, oh, it took 7 years to make this first game. It'll probably be 7 years before season 2. No, that is that you don't understand the history of what went on and why it took 7 years, because initially this was going to be a full live action TV show. COVID happened, all the turmoil of that. While they sat in the middle of that, they decided to sit on the show. They went over and did some work for Wolf Among Us 2. They pulled away from that project and said, no, let's take Dispatch and the show we're going to do and let's make it into a game. Let's make it into a thing we know how to do. Then they started to make the game. Then one of their big financial backers pulled out, stalling it again. Critical Role shows up, helps them out, supports them financially, and then they were able to make it. It probably took, in reality, they could have probably done it in 3 years, all things considered. And so I imagine that we will see in another game in probably 2 to 3 years from now that they're far in the way of developing the game they're making with Critical Role directly, that this kind of animation, how they're making things, actually takes less time to develop, that the biggest thing to develop that you really want to make sure is excelling for ADOC Studios is your story, but the animation and all of that, because lots of it's pre-rendered, it actually makes it quite easy for them to produce. The hardest part is the story, and getting a story that's incredible and that they're satisfied with, which they probably already have with the game they're making with Critical Role directly. And then during that, probably already right now, they're beginning to have the conversations to start development for Season 2. And I imagine that we will see the fulfillment of that between 2 to 3 years from now. I think it's actually incredibly realistic. That I think we'll get it relatively soon, actually. I don't think we'll be waiting 7 years. I don't think it'll be 5 years. I think it'll be that 2 to 3 year window, because they, like any season of anything, you don't want to wait too long before the buzz is gone, but you also want to give it enough time to cook, that you want to put out a product that lives up to the hype of the first and has the potential to exceed it. And so I think this pretty much confirms it. Season 2 is in the works. They're developing it. They're talking about ideas. The actors are in. Now it's just a matter of wrapping up production for that game they're making directly with Critical Role in their own universe, and then they can go full swing into production for Season 2. Of course, this game far blew out their expectations. The studio now has a bunch of money that they didn't have before, that they're going to have a far easier time finding investors and finding actors and hiring people to come and help make this game. That's not just a couple of guys in their basement anymore, that they've got a real name cred, street cred to develop this Season 2. And so I can't wait to see. But with all that being said, I want to know what you guys think. Head down to the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts. Are you excited for Season 2? Where do you think it's going to go? How do you think they solve the different endings that you can have, especially for Vizzy? And she could be your love interest, she could be just a friend, or she could become ultimately the villain, or take on some kind of a villain role where you fail as her mentor. How do you think they navigate that moving forward? Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk, and I will see you guys in the next one.